Secretary General, welcome to N1 program, and thank you so much for speaking to us.
Good morning.
My first question is, can you give us an update on a situation with coronavirus in your own country, in Albania, because at the moment you're in Tirana, and how goes this fight against corona in Albania today?
Well, apparently in Albania we are living under a severe regime of curfew hours since 9th of March, but it has given the results. At the beginning, Tirana, the capital, was the major city. The biggest numbers of the infected people were coming from Tirana. Now there are some other areas, but well, there are some casualties, but at least it has been manageable so far.
But
and the business, so the opening up, apart from the lockdown, some business have already started to open up there, so some small shops and so on. Definitely not the restaurants, bars, and so on. The biggest problem now will be, since the weather will be becoming better and better, and the people here in Albania, they usually by at the beginning of May and so on, they are used and accustomed to go to the beaches.
Let's move to much harder questions at the moment. Recently, RCC has issued a video featuring yourself on the tourism in the region, which is going to be one of the key economic areas for the region, which is going to be very hardly hit. And some numbers which you presented in that video are staggering and showing how big impact coronavirus will have on the region. For example, 10.2 of overall GDP in the region is in tourism. 11.4 all workers are in tourism. 53% of travels, as you said, are already canceled.
or 1 in 5 trips booked.
Yeah, but 78% of operators are impacted by this. What is RCC's view on this situation with tourism, and can we overcome that in a post-corona situation?
Well, you mentioned some of the data and statistics that we presented, and those are all part of an ad hoc survey that we prepared with 100 touristic agencies from the region. So we asked them if they have already started laying off their staff or to cut costs, or how many trips have been canceled so far. And these are the first data that we received, and maybe these are the very first data from the region so far that have been introduced to the public. So the situation, it's not going to be pink and rosy. Well, I hope it's not going to be that dark blue that we decided to present in the video, and to let everybody know, thinking that, and then being quite confident that by denying the reality, it doesn't help to change it. Last year, I added up just one more figure. Last year, in the Balkans, 57% of all the travels were by plane, including those low-cost flights between one country and one member state. But this is not going to be the case this year, obviously. And if we mention that 1 in 5 booked trips to the region planned for 2020 are canceled, then it means that all those revenues that we had last year, roughly something on 7.1, a little bit more, billion euros, this year will be less, definitely. We don't know how much yet, but it will be harder. So what can we do and what can change? We do have only a tourism project. Definitely, it's up to the governments and then up to the countries, while they are introducing their new packages for the recovery and to afford the system, to decide on how much they are going to support the tourism sector. For us, the tourism, it's not only attractiveness and publicity on the Western Balkans, but it's, as you mentioned, closely related with job losses. so employment and unemployment scheme. There are 500,000, 550,000 people employed in the tourism sector.
You have mentioned European Commission and the cooperation with European Commission, but also the region of the Western Balkans. There is a thing called green corridors, which is very important in this moment. And you mentioned the money which came from European Commission yesterday. And it's quite interesting that the only one country from the region hasn't accepted money from European Commission, that's Serbia. And we saw some really big money if we are gonna talk about that, 180 million for Albania, 250 million for Bosnia, 100 million for Kosovo, 60 million for Montenegro, 160 million for North Macedonia, but Serbia didn't accept that money. When we put that in perspective with these green corridors, which basically need to help moving goods through the region, have we seen some sort of discontent between countries and European Commission and a lack of cooperation in these times of Corona?
At the beginning, I'd say that all were shocked and hit by the severe trauma plus the uncertainty how the situation was going to develop. So the virus from one side, so the biggest, the health concern, and that's the biggest trauma that a human being can face. We decided to bring all the economies of the region together, the representatives. EU is always there with us, plus RCC and transport community and CETA, to introduce and brainstorm firstly, but then introduce the idea of the green lanes in the Western Balkans, plus keeping the border crossing points open between the Western Balkans and EU. And I'm just referring to those 18 external borders that Western Balkans shares with EU countries. So we have 18 external borders that we share with EU countries, plus 14 among ourselves. The situation, I have to say, it was frustrating. Frustrating for us. We were receiving and we kept receiving information from different economies on different border crossing points that were not working. Then different curfew hours were affecting as well this passage of foods and medicines. But day by day, I would say that the commitment was quite high to make this happen. And luckily, the situation, it's not the same at all. So we know day by day in the early morning, the situation in every and single border crossing point with the traffic. Drivers do not have to wait for long hours and just afford long queues anymore. Their health check is now in place, and there is a system for that, so they cannot be blocked and lose time in the borders.
Very important question for the region of the Western Balkans is the question of the EU integration. And in the next few months, once this is somehow over, we'll have so many unanswered questions to deal with before we move forward when it comes to the EU integration. First of all, dialogue between Belgrade and Pristina. And now we have Mr. Lajčák as a special representative of the European Union. Also, the exact date for Albania and North Macedonia to start negotiations. Bosnia and Herzegovina doesn't have candidacy status yet. How you see that part of EU integration process to go forward in a post-corona time?
Well, first I should say this is maybe the window of the opportunity that looks like being in a better situation than a year before. So if last year and in October time, when the no decision was taken in opening accession talks with Albania and North Macedonia, it was something not welcomed by all of those who have been working, supporting the process of enlargement, but not a good message for the Western Balkans as well. So this year with the new methodology, I think that we have the EU integration is in a better situation, at least in the concept of being clear and taking more seriously what is going on in our countries, in having a text, this methodology, which I would say it's only a tool, but this time it looks like to be the right tool in the hands of the decision makers to convince even those countries who are skeptic that this process has to continue. Plus the guarantees that they got with in this new methodology on the reversibility of the process or the backsliding and so on. But what I have to say is that the accession process is every day becoming more and more political. It increases every day the risks. From one side, the decisions can be blocked by any member state, but from the other side, and this coronavirus, this pandemic, I think, convinced everybody. We need to have our capacities back home. It's not because of the enlargement process that we need to have a good healthcare system or rule of law applied in our countries, or a system of good infrastructure and connectivity, of good digital functioning border crossing points, for example, at this time, or of standards of the electronic commerce and so on. All these standards that during the process look like being quite meticulous, technical, and really no politician is fond of technicalities. I think that this pandemic has brought back the logic and the reality to us.
So, judging by your words, and as we are nearing this the end of this interview, everything is in our hands, and whatever we do here, that will bear results, and then we'll have a chance to move forward. Is that your message to the region in post-corona times?
I think that the best of it is in our hands. But it's, as the saying goes, it takes two to tango. So the process is quite important to move, not to be stopped anymore, not to have any impediments or sticks that can really make people feel more frustration and angry. And I think that it should work by both parts. But the best part in meeting the requirements is in our hands. It's not the date of European accession what really is the most important thing in this new and under these new developments. I think the most important thing is to behave internally and meet the requirements and create that level of Europeanization that we would like to join in our own country.
Secretary General, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you.